What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another solo leveling Arise video. So we're gonna do a counterpart, part 2, I guess, if you want to call it, to the last video I made, which is SR weapons that are, or SR weapons and hunters that are better than the SSR counterparts. Now I want to talk about elements. Elements are a big part of this game. You obviously know that elements give you 50% more damage against the opposite weakness element, so they play a major part in this game. And I want to talk about the best to the worst elements, weapons and hunters related, and which ones you should focus on and which ones that Marble needs to actually improve. Before I do that though, okay, so first off, I want to give a big shout out to my cousin from my wife's side, Filipino straight up. You guys have Dead Dilly here. If you've not heard of my boy, my cousin over here, who is from my wife's side, is a talented, I'm talking about talented and prolific graphic designer in Toronto. Worked with big names such as Drake, the Toronto Raptors, Childish Gambino, currently working on Gucci Mane stuff. He's got a lot of big profiles, and I decided to reach out to him because, you know what, I got family that does this, and he has put together a little bit of a profile. Now, he's going to come out with a newer version, but I want to show you guys what I'm cooking here and what he's put together for me. So shout out to my boy Dead Dilly. Go follow him on Instagram. You can find him by that exact alias there, and he's got a lot of crazy work he's done for big names. So first off, I feel honored that he took the time to do this. I want to show you guys some of the concepts. Here is my new logo, or at least one of these will be my new logo, because I think it's time to kind of take away the one that I have, put something a little fresher in. There's a couple different logo designs right there that he's put together for me. You guys can see they look incredible, and I am honored that he's put some of this together. But not only that, I do want to show you guys something real quick that I'm working on that I want him to work with me with as well too. And this is going to be massive for my community and the channel, and that is I want to do some merch. Okay, so I want to do some merch with you guys, and I think it's about time I create some t-shirts. So there's a couple right there. Right, so Payneblade SLA, you guys can see here, there's a couple of the shirts with long sleeves. I'm going to probably get some hoodies as well too. So if you are interested in anything related to Payneblade, my merchandise, my logo, my brand, I didn't want to sell myself out to other big brands to sell their products. I was like, you know what? I want to be a brand. I want to be my own brand. I love my community. I love my people. You know, I'm trying to be a role model. And I'd rather, instead of supporting other big companies with their ventures, I'd rather support my family right here, for example, Dead Dilly, and I'd rather support my community through myself. So some big merchandise is going to come through. I'll definitely let you guys know the more I get. I'll probably be doing some hoodies, some black shirts, some t-shirts, so white and black, all different sizes, small to extra large, and I'll put together the design. This is just a quick little put together he had for me, but we'll finalize it, and I'll show you guys the final merchandise when it is out. So if you're interested, this will be coming down the future. I'll probably be doing hats as well too, because of course I got a bald head and I wear hats all the time, so why not represent a little bit of me to you guys? And if you guys are interested, this will be on the webpage as well too, that I'll put together to sell some of these products around the world. Okay, so again, just wanted to give you guys a little heads up of what's happening and what I'm cooking. Again, thank you for those companies who reached out as sponsorships. I get a lot of different offers, but I decided, you know what, instead of doing it for you guys, I'm going to do it for my community and for myself. Now, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the actual video, and that is the weakest to the, or we'll start with the weakest to the best elements in the game. I'll be right back. Alright guys, here we are back into the account. So we're on my pay to win account this time, and I figured I'd show you guys this because I got most of everything in here that needs to be maxed out, and I've done all my testing, of course, on pay to win and free to play to give you guys the best possible information I can through gameplay, testing, numbers. You guys know how it works. I give you guys so much data already as it is, so I'm just going to break it down simply by going over the best, or we're going to start with the worst, to the best actual elements in the game, and the ones that Netmarble needs to focus on more, and the ones you should focus on more from being the best of the worst, right? So let's start off with the worst. By far, and I think this is, everyone can agree here, wind is definitely the worst element in the game when it comes down to hunters, and for the most part, weapons, except for, of course, Westwind. Westwind is the best weapon in the game, so the weapon side, and Baruka's dagger is no slouch either, and longsword is pretty good, but if we're being real, I'd say from the hunter side, easily west or wind is the worst. So we have Dongsu, who's actually a really good character, but there's just no real need for him in the game, and I think that's where the problem stems, the fact that there's no real need. Now, he could have had a really good use for the Vulcan fight, but they introduced Meilin and gave him the water element weakness, so people, instead of using Dongsu, use Meilin to break the shield. Even Dongsu was the original shield breaker and has that same ability. Now, he does spec off defense and is really powerful, but unfortunately just a niche character that nobody uses. The same thing with Wu. He's become a meme at this point, Ric Flair style, and he is given to us for free. Unfortunately, just not a character that people are interested in. His kit's not that good. Overall, they have buffed him quite a bit, but even with those buffs, he just doesn't really bring enough to the fold. And the only real good character that I find that I use fairly often enough is going to be Parkeejin. I've named her a few times. But outside of that, guys, Wind from a hunter perspective is probably the worst. Now, from a weapon perspective, it's not the worst. Because they do have Westwind, and Baruka's dagger is actually pretty decent as well, too. And of course, the Demon Longsword is no slouch of a weapon. These things are actually good enough to carry them on the hunter side, but Wind for sure... Sorry, on the weapon side, but hunters for sure, they fail. So if we're talking about the worst element in the game, if we're taking everything into account, I think it's fair enough to say, outside of Westwind, that Wind needs the most amount of work. So I would put Wind as the worst element in the game at the moment. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comment section. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Now, the second worst element in the game, and I'm going to talk about this one, is going to be probably Fire. Now, the reason Fire is because of two things. Number one, they're very limited in the amount of hunters they have. They have two of the best hunters, granted, I'll give you that. They have Choi, who's one of the best DPS in the game still, and then of course they have Emma, who's one of the best characters in the game, period. They're just lacking one major thing. They have one SR currently that sits there. We have a new SSR coming who's Fire, by the way. She'll be in very soon, and she is a breaker in a ranged unit, so that's going to be a nice addition. But what they're really lacking here in Fire, in my opinion, is buffing. They need a buff. And I thought Fire would be one of the best buffing elements in the game because it's Fire, attack up, crit up, etc., right? But they don't have that. So I think they really do lack a lot of the support side of things. Now, Emma does do everything. She does buff quite a bit, actually, as a unit. She gives a shield, she breaks, she does DPS, she does everything. She does it all. The problem is you can't have just one unit do everything. You need some variety. So I think when they start adding additional things to it, you'll see a better Fire elemental increase in terms of people using them more often, right? Now, in terms of weapons, they actually have pretty good weapons. Vulcan's Rage has recently had a pretty massive buff and definitely is a very potent weapon, especially at A3. Orb of Avarice is one of the best weapons in the game for AoE, period, bar none. So weapon-wise, they've actually got a lot going for it. Night Killer is actually not bad as well, too, but they do lack a lot of oomph in the SSR category. They've got Vulcan's Rage only, and that's it, really. And at the end of the day, they need something better for him. Now, we have Phoenix Soul coming for Jinwoo, obviously, we know that, and that's going to make a huge difference in where Fire sits with the new Fire weapon as well coming out and the new Fire element unit that's coming out. We should see a fairly big increase in the use of Fire overall. So Fire will probably rise up in stock quite a bit, but right now, I'd say it's the second worst element in the game. All right, now, let's talk about the third worst element in the game, and this one, I'm going to talk about it because it bothers me. So I'm going to go with Dark. Now, Dark here, and I have to admit, I like this about SLA. They don't make light and dark elements any better than all the other elements. You know, in the other genres, like light and dark are the hardest to get. In this game, it doesn't really matter. It's the same as everything else, which I really love because they treat it equally. But I'm going to say this. SM Beck, Lee Bora, Lim, Tashik, Hong Suk. Who else is dark here that I think we pretty much covered everybody here that matters. They all are very niche characters. And they all lack one thing, utility at endgame. So, for example, SM Beck's Bleed would be one of the best things in the game if they allowed units or if they allow bosses that really need it to actually be affected by it. But they don't. They limit everything from Bleed. So that takes away Tashik and SM Beck's DPS by quite a bit on endgame bosses, right? Lee Bora is incredible. She does have one of the best supports in the game for all dark units. At the same time, she does a cleanse on anything on the floor for debuffs. Plus, she does charm, which is awesome. And she's a good DPS. She's probably the best carry for the dark elements. And Lim is no slouch for DPS, but not a good enough breaker, in my opinion. And then you start going down to Tashik, which is the same problem you face with Bleeds. And then Hong Suk is just not used very often. So I think dark element is still a little better for hunters than Fire because they have more variety. But I still think overall the Fire potency hunters are better than Dark. So in that regard, I still think Fire takes a little bit of an edge. But where Dark really gets into like the best possible situation is their weapons. Weapons for sure. Like if you look at the Moon Shadows, the Plum Sword, the Scythe, right? Really those three right there put Dark on the map. Those are three of the best weapons in the game for any use at all. So because of their weapons, they're higher up than Fire. And that's the only reason why I'm doing this. The weapons actually carry them more than the units. The units carry Fire, but the weapons carry Dark. So Dark, I'd say, is third best on the list or third worst, however you want to look at it. But nonetheless, these three weapons here are nothing to be trifled with. Easily the three best weapons in the game for any situation possible, especially Dark element situation. So very, very strong for that regard, okay? Now, second best element in the game right now is going to fall under Light. I'm going to pick Light. Okay, and the reason why is because, of course, we have Cha. first or second best DPS depending on your setup. Min, first or second best support depending on your setup. Beck, second best breaker in the game, easily. We got 2 more breakers here who are incredible actually at what they do, Jino and Kim Chul, and then we have a mediocre DPS. If you look at the weapons though, they actually have pretty strong weapons too. We have the Huntsman, which is a very, very powerful ranged DPS break weapon, and then Reroll, which obviously is one of the best range weapons in the game as an SR, and then the Longsword and the Spear. So all very powerful weapons, all very powerful units. The only reason why right now they're not number 1 is because water just has a little bit better in certain categories, in my opinion. So going to the best possible element in the current game right now, the meta is going to be water element. We have Sa as the breaker DPS. We have Alicia as insane DPS, especially AoE. We have Meilin, who is equal to, I would say, Min, or in some situations even better. In some situations, not all. We have SR units like Nam, who is the best breaker in the game. We have the best healer in the game. We have an amazing poison and AoE / breaker in the game. And then we have obviously just mediocre unit right here. So they're very equal. They're very equal. Where I think they kind of stand out a little bit more though is the weapons. The weapons I think for water are better than the light weapons. And for water weapons, we have Scatty, we have the Grimoire, 2 of the best, I'd say, CC weapons in the game, also debuffing weapons in the game and buffing weapons. We have ourselves the Falchion sword here, the Frostbite one. We have ourselves the Kasaka daggers, which are really powerful. And then of course we have the Naga sphere, which is no slouch of a weapon on its own. And even their rare weapons I find are even better. So I think by a very, 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 very small margin, guys, water element currently is the best element in the game for sure, where we're talking about buffs, debuffs, DPS, overall utility, overall weapons, and the way the things are currently structured in the game, with Workshop of Brilliant Light obviously being weak to water, it gives them the edge over the rest of the elements. All right, guys, this is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the brand new merchandise coming out, the new logo, and the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.